My name is Nia McAllister, and I am the Visitor Experience Manager at the Museum of the African Diaspora in San Francisco. And I'm so excited to be welcoming all of you to tonight's open mic. This is an ongoing series that we have every 2 weeks, something that's grown over the last 2.5 years, which has been incredible. And so I'm really happy that we've been able to reach so many new folks who are outside of the Bay Area now with this event being virtual. So before I get into the logistics of tonight's event, I kind of want to ground us in the space that we're gathering in our respective spaces that we're calling in from tonight. Moab stands in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, as there are multiple pandemics killing us, including the ongoing systemic violence against Black people. We honor and mourn the senseless murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Jonathan Price, and so many others who have lost their lives at the hands of police brutality and racial injustice, including those whose names we do not know. We want to acknowledge that as this list of names continues to grow, we will continue to say them and continue to bring awareness in the fight for real justice for the global Black community. I also want to acknowledge the spaces that we're occupying. And though we're gathered virtually, many of us are either settlers, immigrants, or descendants of those forcibly brought to this continent. And our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of the indigenous peoples whose lands we are located on. It is with deep respect that Moab acknowledges that even in a virtual space, our people, our work, and our network servers are all on native lands. And we thank the indigenous peoples of the Bay Area and beyond who have stewarded this land throughout many generations. Each time that I host open mic, I often come to this space with the weight of the day or the weight of the world, but often find a lot of comfort and solidarity amongst all of you. And so I want to acknowledge that this is a space for us to recognize our grief, our anger, our exhaustion, and also to seek comfort and joy in each other's company. So everyone is welcome to share in this space. And it is of the utmost importance that we continue to center and respect and uplift spaces that amplify Black voices. And so I'm going to walk through briefly just the logistics of the event. We have a really wonderful lineup of poets and writers this evening, and our absolutely wonderful feature, Teju Adisa-Farrar, who will be joining us and presenting midway through this event. So the event will begin with the first half of our open mic readers, and I'll be putting the full lineup in the chat momentarily. I'll be reading everyone's name beforehand to introduce you. If by chance someone isn't in the room, we'll make sure when they join later that they get added back into the lineup. We'll have our feature read midway, and then we'll conclude the event with the remaining open mic readers. So each of our open mic readers have 4 minutes to share. And so I just ask everyone continue to respect the space and give everyone their attention and allow everyone to fully share. Because open mics are always very interactive, I do encourage you to use the chat, the reactions, air claps, and snaps. I think it's important that we continue to uplift and acknowledge each other's words. So please call out in the chat phrases that stand out to you, things that resonate, so we can continue to amplify each other's work. So with that, I'm going to put the lineup in the chat and invite Yeva Johnson to kick us off tonight. Welcome, Yeva.
Thank you, Nia. Thank you so much. I am gonna do 2 short poems and a little music before and a little after. One poem was a little like, oh, I was like, let me not do this to them. So the second one is a little more uplifting. I suffer, but not from writer's block. That old hip pain I thought had resolved reclaimed me with a vengeance last night. Each middle of the night bio break left me a bit more debilitated, so that by morning I could scarcely turn over in bed, and the throbbing became my guide. No, this way. No, not that, only this. So that brushing my teeth, or making my bed, or clothing myself became Olympic trials I had to place in before I could even contemplate breakfast or writing another poem. And this next poem, some people, I've read it one other place before, some people might have heard of it, but if not, it's recent, but it's called In the Key. And actually for Nia and Elizabeth, I was partially inspired by this series we had on Afro-Cuban music series. It's called In the Key of the Underlife. After a soul visit to the seascape of living coral, one is seized with the desire to breathe underwater, simply to gaze at wonder after wonder, parrotfish, clownfish, starfish, triggerfish, rainbows of fish, and multitudes of luminous algae, pan water pipe sponges, sea squirts, mollusks in a gamelong seaweed forest, a glorious phantasmagorical world at ocean's edge, where the pulsations of microscopic polyps and plankton form the basso continuo, harmonizing with the contrapuntal melodies of spiny lobsters, sea urchins, wrasses, and eels, shaking their shekere bodies, accompanied by choruses of sea turtles, the trumpet of dolphins, and at last, after night falls, by the syncopated djembe drumbeat of sharks with their unsurpassed elegance on the hunt as they tease the undulation of the waves from the darting movements of ocean life. And again, after dawn, when the staccato of seabirds connects this undersea symphonic mantle with the heavens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yeva. It's absolutely wonderful hearing both your music and the poetry inspired by music. And it's lovely to see when our different programs connect too. So thank you for those pieces. Next up to the mic, I would like to invite S.K. Williams. Welcome back.
Thank you. I am going to, my name is S.K. Williams. I also go by Gary Woman Poet. I'm a Garifuna woman from Belize. I grew up in New York, and I now live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I write a lot about aesthetics for Black women and a lot about hair. Today is 30 years since I shaved my straightened hair and started growing my locks. And so my first poem honors that, and it's a poem that I wrote a really long time ago as I was going through that transformation. It is called Friend Hair, The Unveiling of a Lie. Hair stands up on my head with a will all her own, in curlicues and springs having sprung from the wells of a wondrous origin. But I put hair down, because when I look in the mirror of my oppressed mind, I see myriad of miserable characters, like Buckwheat and Jemima, and Amos and Andy, with curlicues and white smiles plastered across dark, black faces. I run, hollering in horror at this African sight that is me, focusing on my Western interpretation of self. The salient solution is a mixture that is lie-based, that tells a lie, that will put this unruly hair in her place. This arrogant, willful mass that dares to stand up, declaring to the world, yes, I am here with a personality of my own. Do not put me down. Do not squelch my will like your will has been squelched. I do not succumb easily. I am the truth. This being shouted into my brain from the top of my head, to which I said, "From whence does this voice come?" over and over again. "It is friend Hare," came the response. "Would I lie to you? I exhibit my honesty. You must not abhor that which you know is true." Hare must be put down. She will not be allowed to exhibit this wanton behavior. So every 6 weeks, without a hitch in my motion, I put Hare in her place, my form of devotion, standing in front of my mirror of lies, leading myself to believe that this was truly me. The soft, silky threads weaving their poisonous position atop my head came from a direct root. Bouncing and behaving, easily managed, fix this mess. The mess had been fixed, and the comb was gliding easily through. Then one day I awoke, choked with the stench of the lie that had riddled my brain, costing me more than the 60 or 70 hard-earned dollars I had spent to prevent the unveiling of the lie. It had caused me misery and pain. The myth that had become me, or had me become the myth, was staring me square in the eye, proving to be the lie that I had embodied. And so, without dread, I took a razor to my head, and immediately I was freed, and I became the me that you now see. And I became the me that you now see. That's the first one. My second poem is called What We Do for Beauty. What we do for beauty and what beauty has done to us. My body turned inside out and upside down and against me. I am not free to allow the gravity to achieve its natural end, to bend my body with time. I place sublime faith in the search for eternal youth, creams to clog the pores to fight the wages of war from afar, sent to me with love of my money from the far-off chemical labs, foreign to my soul, and countless others I can ill afford to enter my skin, my brain, my mind, to poison the natural impulse filled with empty promises of elusive fountain of youth. As I age brutally and stare fearfully at the second hand of the clock, ticking away the moments of my life, rushing me to the brink of ancient and away from beauty, closer to beast, with sagging skin and breast, moving me from woman to witch to hag, to cast away to the edge of the world, and alone. A place to which I hurtle quickly, clinging to the definition of beauty, devoid of respect, of love, of nature, of woman, of womb, of mother, of gravity, of birth, of time, of love, of love. Tick, tick, ticking away. I glance into the mirror of my soul, searching for the beauty deep within that rebels against the image of me as thing, as object, not of art, but of prey. Today I cradled my woman child in my arms, against the breast and womb that are losing the battle against gravity and time, that exhibit the evidence of her existence within, and with pride and sense of accomplishment, I glance at this evidence, and joy and love for her presence in my world, in my heart, and discard the images of flat, colorless, lifeless mannequins that inhabit my brain, embracing the full-bodied Aquaba, Minona, Musokoroni, with flowing breasts that embodies my being, and become one with gravity, nature, and time. The sublime mother that is me. This is the image my daughter must have of me, that will arm her against the onslaught of beauty that she, as a young, beautiful Black girl, will encounter in this world. Thank you. My last one is called Stay. It's a love poem, which I don't write very many of. This piece was written in October of last year. Stay. Sometimes the words get stuck in my throat, held there by pride, or to protect my soul from all the pain that would come from your leaving. That one little word got stuck that day, as much as I wanted to say, stay, and let me love you in my own way. Stay, so that together we could make memories and perhaps a life together in this cold, cold world, where I could bring you warmth and an open face and heart, and cradle your soul when things inside of you were broken by life, by love, by the world. Stay, but I did not say. And instead I watched you walk away, knowing that you waited for me to ask, but I didn't ask because either I didn't want to be a burden to you or lose my pride for begging you to stay. So I said nothing instead, and you walked out the door with my heart in the palm of your hand and a head full of tears, and with my head full of tears for wanting you, with the words to ask you stuck in my throat and my heart in my hand. Stay for the beautiful music that we made together. Stay for the light that we'd shown into each other's lives. Stay for the bottomless passion that I have for you. Stay for the poetry you've left in my soul, and the longing that I have for you that will not go away, as you have into the unknown ether to an unknown love, leaving me behind. When you knew my love and I knew yours, but you've gone, because I let you wait in my pride and my fear that might consume me if I'd given you that tiny four-letter word that would have changed our lives forever. Stay and let me love you the way that I can love you, with all my heart, with all my power, with all my soul. Stay. I wish I had asked. I wish I knew how. Thank you.
Well, thank you so, so much for all of those pieces. I enjoy that it seems like each time you've read here, it's been a celebration or an anniversary of something. So that's been really lovely. Thank you. Next up to the mic, we have Dee Allen. Welcome back, Dee.
I'm going to do two poems for tonight, and both of those poems happen to come from my new book, Eloi Onichi, Poems, 2013 to 2018. In the spirit of Native American Heritage Month, which was actually in November, but far as I'm concerned, every month on the 12-month calendar is Native American Heritage Month, every month. And this poetry book is separated into three sections. The two poems I'm going to do comes from two sections. First one comes from Harm to Nature, from pages 15 to 74 in the book. This is called Liquid Fire Legacy. Despair taps on a red man's shoulder, leading him to temptation outside the res. His lone pilgrimage ends walking into a store, finding and reaching out for the almighty Great Spirit, labeled Hurricane Malt Liquor, weight 25 ounces, tall boy, aluminum body. Temptation fills refrigerator shelves under alternate names, Colt 45, Old English 800, King Cobra. Cash and carry, all part of his solemn ritual. Slam the cash down on the countertop, carry the can back to a private misery. His lips, teeth, tongue, and throat will taste. Mind will soon forget that rich, foamy, wet amber temptation. Cold brew replaced yesteryear's liquid fire in a bottle. A Hollywood stereotype is born with each swig of the can. Don't need the army no mo when this slowly severs the sacred hoop mowed and imagined. Legacy of intoxication stretching back to when the first pale-faced newcomers laid eyes on their first band of natives, offering them in exchange their strange bottled gifts for fresh-skinned furs, whiskey from the English, brandy from the French. That first poem was called Liquid Fire Legacy, from pages 15 to 17 in the book, about the scourge of alcohol abuse within the Native American community. And the last poem is short. It's 11 lines long, and it's in a new poetic style that was created by a poet based in Pleasanton, California. The double title poem is what this style is called. From page 54 in the book, from the section called Travels Through Nature, the title of the piece is also serves as the first line. This is called Kule Loklo, was what the Miwok Indians called Olima, California prior to Spanish contact. The visitor center held no fresh wonders for me. The path ahead of it treed me mo, cutting past eucalyptus trees, which finally led to Kule Loklo, nestled under thick Douglas fir trees, Katka houses, where gatherers of salmon, clams, and acorns slept, Lama, sweat lodge, where men went, sweating themselves to purity, roundhouse, where the chief mother gave prayers to her clan, a step back in time to a village Miwok tongues named to honor, Valley of the Bear. And that last poem was called Kule Loklo, based on a trip that I took to the North Bay to hopefully go to Point Reyes, but I only went as far as Olima, California, as Point Reyes is in reality 21 miles driving distance from Olima. Go figure. But something good came out of it. I came across this recreated Miwok Indian village. It was beautiful. It totally was a step back in time to an era before European contact. And those two poems came from the new book, Eloi Onichi, now available from Conviction to Change Publishing. From this computer mic to your ears, I'm Dee Allen. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dee. It's always great to have you on the mic here. Next up, we have Kim B. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you. So my name is Kim B. Miller. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, currently reside in Virginia. I'm the Poet Laureate for Prince William County, Virginia, first African-American Poet Laureate, and I'm the 2019 Southern Fried Haiku Champion. I'm gonna do some haikus for you guys. Haikus are really short poems, only 3 lines, 17 syllables, started in Japan only on nature and flowers. Everybody else switched that up, so I'll be doing the non-traditional haiku. Can't drown out problems with liquor, needles, or pills. Pain will wait for you. Haiku. Strong women are not unbreakable. We just know you ain't the hammer. Haiku. You betrayed loyalty with lust, and now you want lust to be loyal. Haiku. You cannot divide yourself into fractions to make someone else whole. Haiku. You should put Blacks on money. You hashtag us more than dead presidents. Haiku. Trying to decide which one. Just because they're in your list, that does not mean they want to see you fly. Haiku. Some of you do not have haters unless your mirror started talking. Haiku. Stop blaming men for having baggage when you have a storage unit. Haiku. In order for me to be a gold digger, don't you have to have gold? Haiku. Yes, they threw likes at your post, but they don't like you. Jealousy likes you. Haiku. Dear people, stop looking for the help you want and be the help you need. Haiku. She's in love with your words, but your heart did not write them. Tell her who did. Haiku. If as soon as you lose your job, she leaves, now you lost 2 jobs. Let's see, I'm probably out of time, so let me see what they end with. Haiku. They thought they broke you, but you're a glow stick. They just exposed your light. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those haikus. I agree with so many people in the chat. I've never heard haiku done like that. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that energy to the space. Next up to the mic, we have Zakia G.E.K. Parr. Welcome, Zakia.
Thank you. Thank you, Nia. So good to be here. I've been absent for a bit. So, and thank you to everyone for being here. Yes, I'd like to do a poem that's really close to my heart. And it's a new poem that I wrote after my aunt left her body. It's entitled it's entitled Reality Shook Me. Didn't know why I was so edgy, tossing and turning in my bed, 5 o'clock Sunday morning, still unsettled, not knowing then what was causing my disquietude. Sleep wouldn't come. Perhaps I was done. So I rolled over onto my knees, thanked the Creator for another day, prayed and meditated. Now I was on my way to start the second half of this new day. Strolled into the bathroom, then turned kitchen lights on, hot filtered water in kettle, placed it on the range. Once water heated, sipped until it was gone, but still feeling not the rejuvenation I usually gained from drinking early morning water once again. Felt inspired to write, sat down at my desk. Early mornings are often my best. Picked up my pen, opened pad. Title came first, then initial verse. Reached for the phone, it was off, so I turned it on, hoping I had muted it because I didn't want to disturb anyone. 7 texts. I saw at a glance. I smiled, knowing my East Coast siblings were already texting each other. I began to read their messages, and to my surprise, found out Aunt Missouri had just died. Sunday morning at 12:52, tears began to fall from my eyes. She transitioned 3 months before she would have become 103. Cognitive, possessing, sound body as well. Enjoyed cooking for the family and raking leaves in her yard. Is how she chose to remain active. Birthed 16 children in her lifetime. Reality shook me. I did not have to be sad. Aunt Missouri peacefully released physical life at home with loving family at her bedside. She lived a long, productive, wholesome life that she took in stride. I should celebrate, congratulate, and commemorate her longevity, strength, fortitude, forbearance, and wisdom. Be grateful she was here. She'll forever be near because close to my heart, I will keep you, Auntie dear. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zakia, for sharing that piece and celebrating her very, very full life as you've so described. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up to the mic, we have Sarai Bordeaux. Welcome, Sarai.
Hi, everybody. I wrote this on Tuesday and I've really been thinking a lot about it. I haven't even like edited or anything. It's just been a lot on my mind at the time. It's called A Reason to Reparent. Okay, for reals, if I'm being super honest, I have always been the won't know till we get there type gal. Flying by the seam of my ripped, now too small pants, can't see past tomorrow type creature. See, plans are an assumption of competence. Internal motivation is the stuff of dreams I've never had. Ideas are easy. Those come faster than an ex remembering how your body feels or tastes. It's getting out of the idea phase that's the bother. So much so that I get mad at myself for having yet another idea. Haven't been able to make many of them work till now, so why try? Like I've literally convinced myself that I don't deserve ideas or yoga or sobriety, all things I have fallen off of. I almost typed next with 30 days left in the pandemic as opposed to left in the year because I've equated my situation with being kind of hopeless. I've equated myself with being kind of a fuck up, kind of fucked up. Honestly, never mediocre, but feeding myself crumbs at this point, accepting all the fucking crumbs. Always the fun one, secretly not moving forward really, secretly not having any fun, not sure how to put myself first besides to stay in a room all day, besides that bottle of wine, besides perpetually starting over. I am really struggling with the building for the future situation, no cap. My foundation is not such that things always add up logically. When it comes to this adult equation, I can't get things to always add up logically. I mean, in all seriousness, like I get what I want. I really do. Like it happens. I get it. I really get it. I am a force, there is no doubt, but a force in which direction is the question right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sarai. And I always appreciate the vulnerability of bringing new pieces to the space, and I think you do that so well. So thank you, Sarai. Next up to the mic, we have Normatics. Welcome, Norm.
Hi, good evening. Hope everything is good on that coast. I have two pieces, and I'll jump right in. Like it or not, shelter in place, self-quarantine, an opportunity to go inside. Maybe build a rocket to explore your universe. Maybe invent the fuel for a rocket you've already built. Maybe leave your skin in a pile at the door, sanitizing raw knuckles, peeling out of gloves like a snake shedding lives between a rock and a hard head. Say goodbye to superficial thinking. Poets are the scouts exploring with inner vision. Bring your telescope. This other piece is what we call in here new shit. It's called El que pregunta saber quiere.
New shit.
Fathers of daughters promise. Bring on curious wonder, teaching me to be whole. Teacher of community jewels, silenced languages, Shy girls afraid of nothing but attention. Allied to any student ever bullied, including the bullies. Immediately changed L to La, unmasking the machismo embedded in the subject and the object. La que pregunta, saber quiere. Playing with the translations around, she that asks wants to know. The one that asks wants to know. She that asks, wisdom loves. She that asks knows what she wants. Working against norm, praise for the answer, thinking work is done. Working for wonder factor, provoking curious questions that show what is thinking. Wanting to know is how to learn motor, driving inventions that fly. Ideas become questions, to want to know more, beyond curriculum. How to know what question to ask, knowing answers lose cachet fast, when why is left hanging without a legit because. Daughter of parent, student in teacher, class humming with iridescent thinking, searching for equity in all the systems from now on. This teacher is curious about how people are smart outside the cocoa, wondering if knowing includes being balanced with doing. Peace.
Thank you so much, Norm, for both of those pieces. I especially like that new shit. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you.
Next up, we have Lanisha Murphy. Welcome, Lanisha.
Thank you. I guess it's new night because I have a new piece too. I actually just finished it today because I do that. Y'all forgive me. I like writing about grief and mourning and loss. It's my thing, even though I'm usually a happy person. So maybe this is my way of getting it out. So this piece is called North. It wasn't a path of destruction. It was a path of exhaustion. As we rode north, we saw the discarded pieces of our lives, not for lack of care, but of tiredness, of picking up the pieces of everything that was stolen, of our will, our ingenuity, our creativity. You see, we raised palatial estates, laid drives arched by trees that bore our strange fruit, built sprawling verandas that served mid-afternoon cherry bounce to the fair-skinned passerby, dug looking ponds encased with black pearl and chrysanthemum, brought rice from the lowlands to the cool marble-faced counters of the big house for supper. We turned down cotton duvets, adorned pale skins with negligées, and brushed flaxen hair with ivory combs. We forced open our bodies while closing off our souls. Then we rode north to freedom, taking nothing but ourselves, yearning for wholeness and sanctity, celebrating our tombs that we left behind, not knowing that Reconstruction offered much less than 40 acres and a mule. The next piece I'm going to read is, I don't know, this one's kind of like from a while ago, but I kind of like this, I'm just going to read it. I keep thinking that I'm okay, and then grief catches up to me. I'm fine, and then mourning overwhelms me. Tears come to the brink and then recede like a recluse who wants out of bondage yet gets discouraged by the light. I have worked so very hard to curate myself, to never succumb to anyone's whim or fancy, to never be controlled the way I was then, to be stoic, pristine, reserved, placid. But hell is breaking loose. I had cried enough tears and spent enough emotion. There was no more. I despised the lump in the throat. That was for others, not for me. Grief was to be reserved for the dead, and I had not yet laid a hand on him. Grief, however, was in its rightful place. Much was dead and yearned for mourning, ached for the funeral pyre. The anxiety is in the fight, the denial of sadness, the simple lack of acceptance of fact. There is a sweet sorrow and an irresistible relief to this death, an overpowering peace that is oddly comforting. It is like slipping into an almost too hot bath, almost too much to bear in the beginning, yet curative to the achiness of the soul. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lanisha. I loved hearing that new piece, and I think between both of your pieces, you just have a really lovely style of reading, which I really enjoy. So it's always a joy having you here in the space. So we are halfway through our readers. So I'm going to read a couple of pieces and then introduce our feature for this evening. So I think this organic theme that's arising is new pieces. My spin on that is taking old pieces and making them into something new. So this first piece is something that I was going back and rereading and re-editing today to make it a new piece, but I've never read this one before, so this will be interesting. This is entitled Soundscape of the Red Line. The city calls its own street stranger, finds fault in the paved over cracks on a sidewalk too sleepy to house the homeless. What is belonging to a gentrified skyline, if development is just another word for displacement? Here we live the fine line between red line and gentrifying and feeding off of topsoil tainted with paper waste, our faucets dripping with lead paint. Yet the cleanup comes looking like juice shops and scooter stops, as if generations of our hands didn't build this nation. The great irony of our people having worked the land, and yet come flashing lights in red and blue. They name these black bodies on green surfaces danger. They stay placating with seductive new cement, brighter lights on dim streets, and market prices high enough to keep out our dreams of coming back. Here in this place we call home, this metropolis of mind games, landscape of disparity, a pit stop for panderers. We live the fine line between we've been here and never coming back. And yet sometimes at the right hour, you can still hear the city sing itself to sleep. Thank you. I think being someone who's grown up in the Bay and seeing a lot of the changes, it's a very conflicting feeling being here and calling this place home. So this next piece is a very old piece. I debated reading this because it's hard reading really old pieces and seeing how much your writing has changed over time. So this is a piece I wrote in March of 2017. It was the first one I ever read out loud to an audience, and I was terrified. So we're going to revisit this tonight. To the girl who learned only selflessness, to the girl who folded at first hint of criticism, to the girl who never saw her own beauty in the perfection so idolized by her friends, to the girl who wanted to hide the curves developing on her body, wishing she could pull at her skin hard enough to make them fall off. To the girl who finds her voice caught in her throat at any opportunity to let her thoughts sing, you are more than your insecurities. To the girl who still gets icy chills when she catches a whiff of that stranger's cologne, to the girl who grew up as the brunt of her friends' jokes, to the girl who fears the painful sting of rejection when it comes from the ones closest to her. You are more than the scars their actions leave. To the girl who is trying so hard to love herself, take yourself in all your entirety, hold her close. Remind her that her worth is never determined by the affections or affirmations of others. She will want to believe you, but will struggle to reclaim herself. Give her time. Loving yourself requires patience. Give her time. One day, you will meet her again and say, look at this woman now. She is coming into her power. She's got magic bursting at the seams, an irresistible glow radiating off her very being. This woman, she is made of dreams. Thank you. It's quite strange hearing this piece many years later, and it's still ringing true. So I think growth is an ongoing process for all of us. So with that, I'm very excited to introduce our featured poet for this evening. We have Teju Adisa-Farrar joining us. She is a Jamaican-American writer, poet, and geographer from Oakland. Her writing used subjectivity to explore the realities of exclusion, subaltern communities, geographies of Blackness, urban culture and art, environmental equity, and systemic change. Teju has performed poetry and conducted workshops all over the world, including Austria, Denmark, Portugal, Botswana, and the United States. She's been published on several digital sites and magazines, as well as an ebook of poetry entitled Searching to Find Home in 2014, and a poetry chapbook entitled To Belong in 2017, based on her travels throughout Israel and Palestine. Teju is interested in documenting and mapping Black, read alternative futures. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Nia. I'm gonna get into it and then I'll say some things. So I hope that's okay with everyone. When the giant wave comes washing over our bodies, Black people will become mermaids and Indigenous people will become seeds. What will you become? What is your story? I mean, where do you come from? Immigrants, where do I come from? My parents, our first geography is our mother. Her uterus is our first environment, our first connection to nature. We are ripped, displaced, dispossessed, torn from the land, then worked, exploited, disposed of, and thrown back to the land. When they pull the last diamond from the earth's volcanic remains, when they poison all of the water trying to pull oil from the sea floor, where will you be? What side of history will you be on? And will you be sitting there with me? See, there's no separate survival. Everyone is a full-length mirror, so please don't destroy yourself. Don't destroy yourselves. We all come from the soil, from earth. We are all made of the ocean from birth. We have essence and there are ecosystems, tiny acts of resistance. See, protecting the earth is protecting ourselves, and it starts from within. The womb of a woman is the first geography of all humanity. Our citizenship does not belong to a country, it belongs to our mothers. Are we sick? Or are we healthy? Are we sick or are we healthy? Sometimes we cannot see past colonial fantasies. Sometimes we cannot see ourselves. Sometimes we cannot see. I'll ask again, are we sick or are we healthy? Black bodies have been drowning in oceans and seas for centuries, trying to get to where I am, or in some cases, trying to escape where I am. The frontier feeling like skin, the borders like violence against my force, against my kin. Sometimes the drowning seems better than the journey. Sometimes the drowning seems better than the journey. Sometimes the drowning feels like peace. The sea is both death and peace, but maybe they are not so different. Are we sick? Are we sick? When you live in a society where all of the laws are based on protecting property, it's no surprise that we think about protecting our stuff before ensuring humanity. I'm asking, are we sick? Do we even want to be healthy? Choking on salt water, salt wounds. Remember India, salt resistance, salt water is healing, but again, it is also violence. Are we sick or are we healthy? I'm wondering about the kind of diseases we have brought on ourselves. My name is Teju Adisa-Farrar, the daughter of Opal Palmer Adisa, who is the daughter of Catherine James Palmer, from Oakland, California, which is unceded Ohlone Chochenyo land, with heritage from the small nation of Jamaica. Thank you, Nia, for inviting me to be here. It's so nice to be in this space, even digitally. It feels good to be in the energy. Most of the poems I'm reading tonight are actually quite old. So as Nia said about her second poem, it's an interesting way to perform remembering and think about things that feel so far from my writing now, but are still feeling very relevant in the world. So what's the saying? History isn't in the past, it's not even past, or something like that. And I feel like that is the crux of many of my poems. So there's sort of a theme that I'm gonna do tonight in the next few minutes. And yeah, so I'll keep it going. This next poem is called Diaspora Kids. It was actually written for a clothing brand started in Vienna called Kids of the Diaspora, and they asked for a sort of anthem for especially kids who are of African descent, but kids from all of the different diasporas that exist in our world. Where are you from? A question I have been asked since I was young, from Oakland, from Jamaica, from Africa, from my mother, from diaspora. Where have you been? In a world evolved from colonialism, dialect colloquialisms, resisting all the negative isms. Ism? Is them? Is they? We did come from many places. We did come across many oceans. We did citizens of many nations. For the Olympics, I was rooting for the whole African diaspora, and we won. Where are you from? They are still wondering, where have I been? Through histories and cultures. In the midst of this, there's me and the others. Those of us whose identity expands beyond one country. Those of us whose love crosses borders, evaporating standards, evaporating culture. Like water is life, we're rooted in this earth. This soil has imbued us with magic, to be global, to be local, to be fearless. Where are you from? Our parents. We are children of immigrants. We are grandchildren of transnationalism. We are the future and the present. We are homeless and we are home. We are kids of the diaspora, our hearts like bridges, bridging creativity to identity, identifying multiplicity, multiplying our unique stories, staring through this world that renders us one-dimensional, unintentional, and lost. No, we are multifaceted and found, never lost, but found in the reality of multidimensionality, living through music, dance, books. Look, we live here, we go here, we are here, we exist and always will. My words bust through your eardrums like doom doom ba drum beats from Guinea. A freedom song from M.A. Césaire, Marcus Garvey to Yusef Septi. The roots of the diaspora run deeply. We transport dances across seas. We travel with rhythms to Western nations, from Western Kingston to East Oakland. We are the future and the present, like I said. We create knowledge, we start movements. Our revolution will not be televised. It will be streamed live and we will make noise. We will be righteous. We are no longer needing pens to write our future because we are living it. This next poem I wrote in 2011 after I did some research in Panama on West Indians of African descent who came over to build the Panama railroads and Panama Canal. And for the first wave of immigrants, mostly from Jamaica and Barbados, who came over in 1849, there were about 70,000 casualties. And they did not record any names or histories about the people who perished while trying to create infrastructure that has completely transformed trading throughout the world. So this poem doesn't have a name officially, but I call it No Somos Animales. No somos animales. We are not bred to be domesticated, domestico. No, we are not to be studied. We built cornerstones, canals, railroads, raised families having to find familiarity in new places, mobilized cultures. To study us is to study society. How ironic, aprenda de mí, we are workers who worked to continue to work and still be in poverty. Or to some of us who rose above cycles of historical memories and oppression. We are not one color, one race, or one country. We are people from places, país, pride beyond the bounds of geographical or political boundaries. Some of us not citizens of limitations and laws. That does not mean we do not have a right to rights. El derecho de cultivar y el idioma. We are citizens of humanity, del mundo y el sol, no sola of the right to the nations our hands made, no somos animales. Somos migrants of opportunity and casualties whose yellow, tan, black, moreno bodies were infallible, and to some disposable, and to many, but not enough, we are beautiful. We still carry pain that is in the cement holding buildings together, that is in the rusted metals traveled over and over, in the gold taken to the Portuguese and the Spanish, the silver people, devalued and labeled underclass because our words are English, the language that colonized us, because this is stronger than race. La raza, this is deeper than faith. It's a people, and I will always be political because of my culture. No somos animales, somos la historia. So I wanted to start off with some poems based on the diaspora and histories of the diaspora and displacement. And I never want to do that without grounding all of this in Africa, because the continent is where we all come from, all humans on earth. And especially those of us who are descendants of enslaved Africans, who are Black people. And so this next poem is a creation poem in many African communities, nations, villages, tribes. There are creation poems about how their people came to be. And so this one I made up, which is sort of an amalgamation of some Yoruba creation stories and some East African creation stories, and it's called Before Everything. A palm nut created the legacy, 16 branches with 16 stories, but before everything, there was a handful of dirt and a chicken. They say chicken scratch doesn't mean anything. We only hear about chains and slavery, but before everything, there was a handful of dirt and a chicken. Long, long ago, a chain came, stretched from what is the heavens to what is now the earth. No sane man would believe this tale, but tall tales have long lives, and tall truths are not new. In the beginning, the sky god connected to the ancient waters. In the beginning, Olurun had sons and not daughters. Although they birthed a nation, there was no birth. Although they birthed a nation, there was no first or last, there was only dirt and a chicken. In the beginning, Yoruba kings were the offspring of the Creator's most tangible dreams. In the beginning, all that was veiled, was crowned, was power. Interacting was the spirit, was the people, was the now. In the beginning, a five-toed chicken walked on water. In the beginning, a handful of dirt was power. In the beginning, the palm nut was the foundation. Yoruba was the only nation, but in the end, myths live on in mythology. In the end, the Bantu, the Shiluks, the Zulu have their own creation story. In the end, there was no first, no last, no one, no capita. In the end and now, there is only one. There is only Africa. So yeah, shout out to Africa and the continent. I always feel like I have to do something about Africa because it's just so grounding for me. And I want to bring it back to the US. I wrote this poem when I was living in Europe some years ago, and there was a lot of police violence being shown and recorded. There has always been police violence and death at the hands of police, but in the last 5 to 10 years, it's been recorded and posted on social media. So we continually consume Black death. And so I was in Europe and consuming Black death as a Black person from the diaspora and also Black American. And I was having issues sleeping. And so I was trying to write a poem, which was a form of catharsis, but also trying to speak to the realities of being continually killed again and again, but being very much alive. And it is called Restless. I am not your lullaby. I am not the euphoric whispers in your ear as you fall asleep. I am woke, awake, away, far from the luxury of dreaming. I will not be your lullaby or alibi. Lost between your hands' grasp, like duppies who vanish when you gasp, like ancestors from our past. I am here, I am real. I am not your lullaby. I do not only exist in the mind's eye. I take steps on this ground, feet connecting physically. I breathe in this air, oxygen, penning books literally. Shoot down, gun down, but you can't really kill me. I keep coming back like the spirit you couldn't grasp, like those values this country claims to have. We exist and always will, gun down, shoot down, die, but never kill. Like Jesse Williams said, just because we're magic doesn't mean we are not real. Just because we are magic doesn't mean we are not here. Just because we are magic doesn't mean we can just poof, disappear. I have eyes, she has eyes, we have eyes, we see you. Even when you don't see, we see. I am not your lullaby or alibi. I am not a figment of your dreams. I am me, I am we, and we are over it because you got it twisted. This is the erasure of history, but no matter how hard you try, you can't erase me. We are not going anywhere. We will fight you until you feel us in the particles in the air, until our legacy is under your skin, until our rays burn your skin, until your racist justice system doesn't win, until our equality is common sense and common practice, until the hole in the earth consumes us all. And even then, we will still be fighting. We are not your lullaby. His and their dead bodies are not your alibi. And I and we and she are not on your side. So wake up from this dream, because pretty soon you'll be joining our nightmare. And here there is no mercy. Hell hath lots of fury. We are rightfully angry. Black rage was developed on ships when we were stolen and enslaved. And since then, we've been here to stay. I am over it, under it, done with it. I will not succumb to your racial inferiority complex. I will not live any less. I will always exist. And as for the rest, like Fidel Castro said, history will surely absolve us. Thank you. I want to do a few more poems. This next one is called Poivre Noir, which in French means black pepper. I can't remember when I wrote it. I started it initially to be a love poem, but as with all of my love poems, I turn into political poems. So I'm not sure if those are different things or if I just don't know how to distinguish between them. We're gonna see if it reads like a love poem or something else. And I haven't read it for a while. Oh, but you know what? The last time I did read it was at an event for a book called Harlem of the West. For those of you who may not know about that book, it is about the Fillmore in San Francisco in the era before gentrification happened there, which took place in the 1960s, primarily with the creation of the Gary Boulevard thoroughfare, which displaced most of the middle-class African Americans who had lived there. And it is focused on the jazz scene in Harlem and the Black people there who perpetuated and their experience with being displaced. I read this poem there. Again, the book is called Harlem of the West. It's interesting to remember that just now, but black pepper. Propinquity of love is a necessary reaction to injustice. Exclusion is an unnecessary form of violence. Reality seems like the most limiting route to closeness. Love is like a placebo. It is undesirable if you make it so. It won't work if you assume it's broken. We won't work if you assume we're broken. We can't work if our hearts are hurting. We can't work if our hearts are broken until they heal, until we heal. Propinquity of love, it feels like they are tearing our backs open with their nails, lodging in the burden of hatred and fear. It feels like fear is in the margins with the marginalized. It looks like courage is coming to the periphery fiercely. We are the propinquity of love, so close to home we are being thrust from it. Go back to where you brought us from. Go back to what you should have been. Go back. It's too late for that. We have risen from the squalid compromises of false freedom. We are still rising from the continued affliction of witness to salted wounds expected to bypass the luxury of necessities. We are not over it, and neither should you be. It is the propinquity of love while we are all here, still existing together, albeit poorly, still existing together, albeit humanity, structural fantasies of change, intercepted by pessimist, inception, not sure if we are dreaming this, inspection, the system needs no quick fix, it needs transformation. This can't be bought or speculated. Granulated sugar cannot sweeten poverty or bring the desirable back to the city. We are the desired. Our memories rot into the soil. We are the desired. No longer waiting to be given what we are deserving of, the propinquity of love. You can throw salt all day and salt who we are. None of your sour inadequacies matter. We are pauvre noir. We come from the earth and will never stop reaching towards the sun. Propinquity of love. No, no, we are not yet done. I'm gonna do 2 more poems. Hopefully I have time for that. Yes, okay, cool. This next poem I wrote for a closing reception at Ashara Ekundayo's gallery. It was for the exhibition called Adjust Your Eyes. And so I wrote this poem for the closing reception, but when the day came, I completely lost my voice and couldn't speak. So I couldn't perform the poem. And I was like, oh, I wrote this for this exhibition. I don't know if it makes sense in other contexts, but I feel like it can, or it does, or I'm going to make it. So this is called Just Your Mind, an Offering. Don't be fooled by our Black girl magic, we feel pain too. We are human like you too. Our magic belongs to our ancestors, manifested from their resistance. We can pass down trauma and we can also pass down healing. Adjust your eyes. I said, adjust your mind. Can you see me clearly? I mean, can you see me? Ralph Ellison felt like an invisible man, like he was see-through. On this matter, Toni Morrison asked, invisible to who? We see you. I mean, I see you. The greatest form of care is access to unbridled existence, occupying a space with the option to just be. My pronouns are she, her, we. I believe in individuation, but not individualism. And Kita said, it's not complicated, it's capitalism. Adjust your eyes. I said, adjust your mind. In Hindi, the word for yesterday and tomorrow is the same. So what does that tell us about the colonization of time? Community is pre and post colony. So going there is more like going back, and looking back is more like looking forward. You exist as a seed. Seeds are life, seeds are love. So you are love. Is it dark in here, or is it just that freedom is blackness? Is the North Star bright, or is it just that liberation is darkness? In hindsight, we don't see with our eyes anyway, so adjust your heart. This new life bursting from the scars we've been covering, and no white man will be innocent. Long live the soul of Nia Wilson. And when there is nothing left but darkness, will you be able to live with all the silence? Because sometimes you just need to be quiet. Just be quiet. Adjust your eyes. I said, adjust your mind. I said, adjust your heart. I mean, adjust the paradigm. We are the darkness and we are the light. So these last two poems are short poems that I wrote at the beginning of the pandemic. I basically was just calling it pandemic poetry, and it was like 5 to 10 lines of things that I felt like saying about the pandemic and what I was hoping to share based on my feelings and what other people may be feeling. So it's just pandemic poetry, part 1 and part 2. It's not about you, it's about all of us. With humans staying in, we are healing ecosystems. The earth is grateful for us slowing down, traveling less. Call your friends, play games and dance, do yoga and watch Netflix. We're gonna be here for a while, so let's get used to it. Part 2. We are more than public space and extroverted expression. This goes out to all the introverts who no longer have to make excuses. All of we are staying in. Some of us are going to practice meditation. Some of us might binge watch on all the streaming platforms. All of these activities are valid. Don't start a side hustle, start taking naps. If everyone is getting sick, the best way to combat that is rest and garlic and honey and lemon. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so, so much for all of your poetry and the storytelling that you bring with it. It was absolutely wonderful getting to hear this, even in this virtual space. So before we move on to the next section of the event, I do want to ask how people can continue to find your work, any upcoming events you have, or other ways people can support you.
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Miss Tej, MISSTEJ, and at my website, tejuadisa-farrar.com. That's where I am. Feel free to DM me and email me. I like chatting with people. I don't know of any events that I have coming up as of yet. But since the pandemic, I have started to go back to participating in more open mics because it just really brings a sense of community that I didn't realize, because most of my Zoom meetings are meetings. And so I'm like, okay, it's another Zoom thing, but it's very different. So I hope to be at more of these. And if anything is happening with me worth note, I usually share it on Instagram.
Great, thank you so much. And I put both of those links in the chat, so everyone, please do continue to support. And it was absolutely wonderful getting to hear your work. So we have our second half of our open mic readers. I'm going to put everyone's names in the chat and invite up Carla Brundage to start our second half. Welcome, Carla.
Thanks. Thank you, Nia. It's such a beautiful, beautiful night. And Teju, I'm so happy to see you. I just was so excited to see you. I couldn't wait to see and hear your poetry. At the risk of gushing, I've known Teju since before she was born, and always your poetry, Teju, has more than moved me, and this reading was no different. I brought I had decided a long time ago that I wanted to read this poem. You know how you'd make a decision and then sometimes you're like, is that the best decision? But I'm gonna go with this decision. Sorry, my refrigerator is really loud. Can you hear it? Okay. So it's called Salt and Black Pepper. And the reason why I decided to read this is because I was listening to Deborah Major the other night, and I actually wrote this in a workshop of hers many years ago. And I've been thinking about what an awesome teacher she is. Salt and black pepper. I am salt and black pepper. I am collard greens with fat back, cooked and recooked for 3 days at least. I am steamed white rice, eaten every evening with fork, not chopstick. I am apple pie, cinnamon and sugar, cooked in pure fruit juice, covered with flaky crust and baked until I'm done. I am. Repeat after me. I am proud to be who I am, Mama, and I don't care what the other kids say, said. I am from the country. I am from the country. When my mind rambles, I follow a path over squished strawberry guavas, through bamboo forests, down the gully to the river where we used to bathe. When I remember, I hear Bob Marley singing Stir It Up, but we brown people be sitting stoned, just listening, not moving. I see tadpoles, me walking barefoot through knee-deep mud puddles to get to school, hoping only that they will not dry up by 3 o'clock so I can swim on the way home. I smell the fragrance of fresh picked plumeria, pikake, puakinikini, gardenia, all together overshadowed by my mother's strong perfume. I smell fried chicken and roses, greens, and the sticky air of rice steaming. Yes, I am from the country, and I surprise myself to say it, but I am a country girl. My father catches rainwater on the roof of his house in an old waterbed frame for us to drink and bathe in. At night, there are mosquitoes. My mother catches big yellow and black garden spiders in a glass jar to spread in her gardens, but still there are mosquitoes. I was never proud to be this. I was never proud. But I am a daughter of thousands of years of daughtering. Now I am a mother, and I pass on to my daughter all my traits, good and bad, so that she can take what she needs and improve upon my faults. I am doing the best I can, like a flower in a sidewalk crack, a bird of paradise growing in cement, not out of choice, but because I have roots here. And since I am here now, I hope that people who pass stop to see the gray amongst the color, texture and the monotony, softness thriving within hardness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla. And I'm really glad that you went with your gut and decided to read that piece. It was beautiful. Next up to the mic, we have Yusuf Salam. Welcome, Yusuf.
Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, this piece is called Lamentation. That's an elegy for some classmates' mother. It's inspired by jazz, blues, gospel, and it particularly embraces the Dixon Hummingbird's piece called Trouble in My Way. The clouds are still gray. I want to weep a monk blues. No raindrops on my piano keys. I miss my mother's manner. Have to moan sometimes. Mother's manner, child. Have to moan sometimes. My finger stuck on blue notes. My soul wade screams to my heart. Slogs through deserts and sinks my spirit. She coated me like Abraham's bosom. Lord, I got to moan sometimes. Abraham's bosom said I got to moan sometimes. Her warm smile adored by other sons, gentle as a dew-sprinkled rosebud, kindness to restore the sin-sick soul. Mothers are hostess in heaven, have to moan sometimes. Hostess in heaven, y'all. Lord, I want to moan sometimes. Her radiance coaxed out shy suns like a rooster's crow. Ella scatting rainbow down south rhythms to sunset songs. Mahalia and the saints hymn Sugar Creek Road hallelujahs. Mother done been shine like silver. I have to moan sometimes. Shine like silver. Yes, ma'am, I got to moan sometimes. Listen to the mumbles of motors and the wobbles of wheels up south on Sunrise Highway. Hear their opener, cacophonic praise songs and the classic sign waves on the shore of the bay. Sing of her serenity that sages seek in the solitude of caves. Tell you she's a lotus of the Nile. Well, I have to moan sometimes. Lily of the valley. I want to cry sometimes. Hum bluesy for patriarchs. Elise, Amy, Hannah and Kate, Dot, Tiwi, Mabel, Teresa, Joyce, Drina and Jeanette. The living dead's blood breathes in my bosom. Paul Bearers marching. I want to cry sometimes. Hearse wheels rolling. I want to cry sometimes. Bleak clouds budge. Belly leaks life. Spread wide. Push and let my water break. I will weep like I've sprung from mama's womb. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf. And I really appreciated and enjoyed the music in your poetry. Thank you. Next up, we have Sylvia Block. Welcome, Sylvia.
Hi. First time, yay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. This poem is, it's an acrostic poem in that the first letter of every stanza spells out a phrase. The title of the poem is they used to call us, they don't call us Dixie anymore. I'm iconic in your dreams, instigating sad songs, left to Dixie's fall and all her wrongs. Way down a ways, when country comfort and cotton were way down south a ways. I wish I was in Dixie. That's what they say. Wondering where you ran to when you ran away alone. I'm wondering about your freedom out there where you roam. The cotton bloomed here without you, and visions of good times ran off with you too. There's still yet so much work here left to do. I'm wondering if wishing made you feel what I feel too. I'll be ready to go if you ever come back. You see, I keep a small satchel already packed. Many a bill came through, and sometimes it took a will or two to see it through, but I'll leave with you without thinking twice, because for that freedom, I have paid the price. Slavery is showing cracks and turns. Some run loose and some are returned. Not seeing you became a mantra and fear. Not seeing you broken meant not seeing you here. How I wish you were in Dixie too, but then again, they torture you. The way I've made peace was in the shade of trees that swung heavy with strange fruit in the breeze. Imagining you looking sharp and dressed fine while eating the best food and drinking the best wine helps keep my captive mind and pass the time. I was the noose around your neck, and now the longing masked regret. Wounded seals that don't set right to heal grow twisted when longing won't pay the bills. Freedom costs, such as it is, and with no bed to speak of, I am summoned up to his. Aligned with those who would see you hang, giving what isn't taken, felt like vows forsaken. Survival is interest compounded daily. My every free action has a price, and I am creative in paying. Securing foundation with these jackals resulted in babies with light skin and freckles and a house with its own kitchen and privacy to do business in. In spite of what was done to me and part due to what I agreed, we carved a path out for being free by satisfying their servile needs. We lived in fear, but with our own, we worked our freedom to the bone. Negress, if you please, if you must address me with a false sense of prestige. Sex slave or courtesan, madam, or just a hair salon. Facades of the airs we had to put on because we knew seeds were planted and strong fruit grew. Sent away, look away, run away from Dixieland. Dixie kept it pushing and kept carving away through, but Dixie never forgot to. A separate culture was formed, and in it we ruled our own. The offspring of Dixie were fully grown. No more would they bow nor back of the bus ride. They demanded what had been denied, Dixie's pride. Inevitably, we were all perceived to be more than a little ambitious and just too damn uppity. Burned out, driven away, chased to where the road led, come what may. Babies burned, rights overturned. Exodus to the west, cashing out what we could from our still smoldering nest. If you're whistling at me, I am not there. We gathered our babies and left out together. Those sisters stuck together, and through tough times they weathered. I wished I was in Dixie, they sang, from freedom's distant shores, singing to the bonny bells while thinking of the black horse. For whoredom, much like freedom, has a price for all who want some, taken for granted by those with privilege, yet used to empower an entire village. Eventually, everybody sang that tune. Of cotton and courage, they all did croon with painted faces that bore no traces of respect. Gone unchecked, bamboozled masses in dusty rose glasses, looking for the days of the long past old scores. We did hair, watched the children cook, scrubbed floors, and hoard until our knees were sore. Oh, they remember us, but they don't much call us Dixie anymore. And that's that piece.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, and I'm so glad. Welcome to your first open mic. That was incredible.
Thank you.
As many people were saying, I appreciate the rhyme in there, and I'm lucky to have seen it also in writing, which is, it adds another element to it too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next up to the mic, we have T. Watts. Welcome, T.
Oh, thank you, Nia. Thank you, everyone. Everyone is so vibrant and dedicated to their craft and just so talented, but it's okay. Everybody's on the one. I have a new one too, but I'm gonna start with an old one that it was done to be a visual on the printed page. It was called Inverted Pyramids. I don't know if you can see that, but it's two pyramids opposite each other, called, as I stated, Inverted Pyramids. Quiet, silence suspended, vacuum empty, airless sky, space void, goodness, Apollo nothing, folly tune, turn it back around, death quake, imagination, burning steam, stockade, waylaid poet, Capricorn, Nairobi, Pan-African junkie, twist, cocaine, play any kind of weather, blow, snow, Molly, cousin, jolly mother, make it in the world, Muhammad speaks, Johnson flash, Mafia black, Chi-Town control, birth of a nation, 1973, Vanguard, California pace, Taker college, no credit, black in the streets again. And part two is physics, elementary, freak out phase 2, bad number, sad, bitter media, orange jumpsuit, no glow youth, space, Sun Ra, Coltrane's, Eiler, Rollins, Parker, comma, new thing, phrase, broke, medley, money, barbershop rap, worldly influence, sickness, thin line, lean, happy, Taj Mahal music, life, joy, drops, pitfalls, suck, sacrifice, crucify, happy, power, thrust, imagination, lofty, onto some thing, smoke, element, joyous, repast, Hollywood, repaid, fable, my myth, apocalypse, meditation, incense, sense equals dollars. I forgot to say it was stream of consciousness. Forgot to tell you that. And this one came in this morning. It's called Radicalized at the Both End. As many of you probably know that the Both End was probably the last great jazz club in San Francisco. So radicalized at the both end. After hearing Kirk pre-Rasan jamming the inflated tear on Alameda's K-Jazz, I became a teenaged convert. When I heard Monk was coming to town, I dialed up the Both End on DeViz. Both End, the gruff voice growled, me excited. Is Thelonious Monk playing there tonight? I squealed. Gruff voice. He's working here tonight. Ain't nobody playing. I winced, shrunk back into my Kelly Hill persona, and ain't been the same since. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pete, especially sharing that new one just from today. I'm literally so impressed when people have these fully crafted pieces just from hours ago. Thank you.
Amazing.
Next up to the mic, we have Lorraine Bonner. Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. We've been having some beautiful poems this evening. And thank you so much for holding this space, Nia, and for everyone participating. Yesterday, actually, and it's for, I'm going to put a link up on the thing. This is for an event that I'm going to be participating in, sponsored by the San Francisco Public Library and organized by Wanda Sabir. It's about what the Black woman body knows, addressing trauma through art praxis. And this is a poem called Black Women. When Wanda asked me to be in this event and said it was about Black women, and I thought, oh my God, I'm just one person. What do I know about Black women? You know, I mean, I know about me. So that's why I wrote this poem, to kind of enlarge. So Black women. Some Black women are dark-skinned. Some Black women are light. The names of the colors of Black women are always something sweet. Cinnamon, butterscotch, nutmeg. Some Black women have hair. Some Black women don't have hair. Some Black women have hair that in the bad old days was called good hair. Today, the power of the Black woman's hair has been set free. Some Black girls grew up in wealth and privilege. Some grew up in poverty and neglect. Some Black girls had two parents. Some had one parent. Some Black girls had to raise themselves. Some Black girls were loved and protected. Some were beaten and used for sex. Some Black girls went to school for safety. Some went from school to prison. Some Black girls fought back. Some gave up, dropped out. Some Black women have a roof and food. Some Black women have a roof or food. Some are sick. Most are tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Some Black women are able-bodied, at least temporarily. Some Black women are disabled, at least if not accommodated. Some Black women practice gratitude. Some Black women were born women, and everyone agrees that they are. Some Black women were born women, but in the wrong body, and face violent disagreement every day. Some Black women love men. Some Black women love women. Some Black women love the ones they're with. Some Black women love themselves, and some Black women don't do that. Evangelical, Holy Roller, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Church of God in Christ, African, Methodist, Episcopal, Zion, Baptist, Quaker, Catholic, Unitarian. Some Black women light candles for Shabbat. Some Black women take refuge in the Sangha. Some Black women dance the sun dance. Some Black women dwell in the house of Orisha. Some Black women have altars for the goddess. Some Black women pray 5 times a day, fast for Ramadan, undertake the Hajj, give alms, call their God Allah, and if they cover their hair, fools scream, terrorist. Some Black women don't go to church, don't eat fried chicken, don't like watermelon, like classical music, watch anime, follow hockey, don't do the neck thing. And sometimes they wonder if they are really Black women at all. Sister, if in my poem I left you out, my bad, forgive me. And please do me the kindness of finishing these lines. This Black woman and this Black woman. I know, we know, all Black women know. Whoever we know ourselves to be inside, we wear a mask someone else made, bear a label we never agreed to, are in a fight we never signed up for. There are people who think this country is supposed to only be for white men. They have no idea how beautiful a country that loved Black women would be, how much they would want to live there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine, for sharing that piece and also for including the link to the event on Saturday. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think many folks in attendance would be very interested in that as well. And it looks like you're in one excellent company.
Thank you. And I also am going to be showing slides of some of my sculpture work too.
Wonderful. A multi-talented artist. So we have 2 more poets to close us out this evening. I would like to invite up Nihal Mubarak. Welcome back.
Hello, thanks for having me again. As usual, I am in awe of all the talents and all the poems. I'm going to share something old and something new as well. This first poem is about mangoes because I really like mangoes. And sometimes you just have to have sweet poems. Mama gives me some every time I'm home, sliced into slivers, sectioned into squares. She never cuts it like Jiddu, who showed me how he kept it in its skin, scooped out the meat with a spoon. He was proud of this trick. I like to practice excavating, digging through the insides to gnaw at the core, like my mother does. She feeds us chunks, then sucks the pit. This is where the flavor is. I like the feeling of residue on my palm, savor the weight of the heart, spend days extracting yellow threads from my teeth. I still remember the crates we bought in Khartoum that summer. We craved fruit in the heat, savored the syrup desperately, sweetness so succulent it felt sinful. We swore off all other fruit forever. When I'm home, Mama shows me how to carve out the pits, slides the blade under flesh, and feeds me segments until I'm full. This next one is not titled, but it is a pantoum. My mother compares me to her least favorite sister on the days I tell her that she's wrong. We stand across from each other, the kitchen island, the blockade. We are each leading our own war. On the days I tell her that she's wrong, my mother retreats into herself, becomes stiff. We are each leading our own war. She tells me she prays for a daughter who is not me. My mother retreats into herself, becomes stiff. For days we dance on the edges of imagined borders. She tells me she prays for a daughter who is not me. My anger is really just sadness without permission. For days we dance on the edges of imagined borders. I vow to love her, then vow not to make vows, My anger is really just sadness without permission. We return to each other like turtles find their home shore. I vowed to love her, then vow not to make vows. Resign myself to the knowledge that my mother is mine. We return to each other like turtles find their home shore. My mother compares me to her least favorite sister. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of those pieces. And I love what you said when you started. Sometimes we just do need those sweet poems. So thank you. So to close us out this evening, I would like to invite up to the mic Landon Smith. Welcome.
Thank you. Most of my poems don't have titles, but this one actually does. So this one is called One Shackle Away from Freedom. I've circled the sun again. I am well traveled for a stationary target, a contradictory colloquialism made into a breathing gun range silhouette. I feel the heartbeat in my lungs more closely now. The doctor says it's in my head. Therapist says it's in my body. I do not know how it feels to let go of attention being held in a place where neither can agree. Leaving me listening for a heartbeat in every breath, in every death. I am just another rotation. Soon to be a eulogy set backwards in hopes of finally shedding defense mechanisms. Buried as a rhetorical device. They say I am more prone to hypertension, but that race is constructed socially, not biologically. Yet I am carrying constraints on my heart passed down from memories I did not make. I do not breathe the same as I once did. The price of opening eyes costs peace. Carried through violent visions of destruction, there is no turning back. The lies are known now. I am in search of a joy I have no map for, using landmarks to paint pictures with a brush my memory cannot hold. I am one family tie from unraveling into a reflection I have never known, just to never be born, just to only be seen as the pistol this tension has held up to me. I do not breathe the same as I once did. Unsure of where it lies, unsure if my breath is even promised, I am stardust. So it was only a matter of time before the lives in my timeline martyred by destruction, disrupted, breath stolen from a last gasp breathed into me. The therapist says traumas are inherited intergenerationally. I have visions of breaths my body has never known, piecing together a past with breaths stolen before they could become another rotation. I have circled the sun again, one racist decision away from never coming home. My breath read on a protest poster. My breath read on a stenographer transcript. My breath, just a memory. I'm a misdiagnosis circling the sun. Holding my blackness close to a heart at risk of hypertension compounded by the tension it already holds. I am merely another rotation, a forgotten afterthought, a transaction in a gig economy with short attention span. Trying to discover freedom in a memory not my own, pedaled to me on a plantation platform while splinters infested my feet just below the shackles, telling me freedom is not meant for me here. Even with this 13th decree here, I do not know the meaning of freedom without the restriction of punctuation. Copper on my taste buds, an infection from a dream splintered and sold to me in a starlit constellation seen through a triple pane window with bars in my eyeline. I have died before, but I did not die free. A cacophony of lies told to me by a woman holding a torch and a tablet, meaning that constellation is nothing more than feigned semblance of early onset dementia, just before you begin to lose your faculties, meaning rebellion is the only thing freedom can ever mean for me here. A plantation pipeline transformed into a multi-story dwelling dealing in stock manipulation, transfixed on capturing the dream for some, restricting the dream for some, never pulling splinters for some. Freedom hasn't meant freedom since before auction block dreams, transfixed on where and how to run toward a direction of absence and hope in a faith manipulated to say faith is all it takes. So just believe in predestination. Or is it free will to run? Or is it faith in a post-plantation post still screaming from the screams, trying to break free toward a post-Civil War post reeking from the blood of indigenous, blood of enslaved bodies, fighting for freedom, not knowing what fighting for freedom would come to mean, toward a post-Reconstruction sharecropping post, battling reconciliationist and emancipationist visions against white supremacist visions, only spelling free WHITE, toward a great migration Harlem corner post, overseeing segregationist tendencies and depressing need-feeding Baldwin expatriation, toward a post-Reagan era post about bootstraps and crack epidemics, promulgating destruction of reconstructed communities, toward a post-Nixon, post-Clinton war on drugs drugs post smelling like mandatory minimums and infatuation with criminalization, so please tell me, what does freedom truly mean, and have you ever truly had it? Cooning for capital, model minority trope construction just to highlight the intentional destruction of my mobility, but grant me the ability to punch a clock, and I'm meant to be grateful for the opportunity, huh, sir? As long as my tongue gets that boot clean enough for you, huh, sir? Shuck and jive for good graces, to not be placed on an auction block with splinters in my feet, to know I am not free behind this URL and covered camera being monitored intentionally, inconspicuously, while being told I am free to roam wherever I choose. What good is privacy when self-exposure is the trend minus a copyright to crop out my rights for an extra penny or two placed in a stock option traded within a manipulated sanctum of criminality, glorified in a Gordon Gekko greed is good caricature telling me exploitation is the dream. And freedom comes with investment in a plantation crop, post-plantation stock, once a plantation block morphed into a share price. Free to enlist in a military machine, peddling propaganda about fighting for our freedom as pawns to profit from the imperialization to start a war with someone else, over the oil of somewhere else, sounding like a blues song. A Muddy Waters chorus, capturing the contradiction of a white picket fence on a Chicago red line from the west side to a West Oakland assassination of a Black Panther free to bleed on his own bedpost. Post-civil rights, just free enough to fight for the right to die as a threat, beneath a COINTELPRO case file and a reminder about how splinters festered. I'm one shackle away from freedom, though I'm not sure I know what that word means.
Thank you so much, Landon, for taking us home with that piece. I feel like in every poem that I've heard of yours, there's so much history in a single breath, and that always impresses me, so thank you. And I want to thank everyone for holding this space together. I think we've had an incredible evening, so many new poems, so many poems giving a new life tonight. So I want to thank all of us here who have read and shared in the space, everyone who's come to listen and support our poets. This is what this space is for all of us, for everyone. So it really means a lot when everyone gathers here every other week. With that being said, this is an ongoing series, and so I would like to invite everyone back. The next one will be on December 17th, the same time, 6 to 8 p.m. And we're really excited to have Taylor Crenshaw as our featured poet. So I'm going to put the link to that event in the chat just now. We also do appreciate any and all support that you're able to contribute. Attending is wonderful. If you are able to financially support the museum to help sustain this programming, we appreciate that as well too. We'll be putting information both in the chat and up on the screen about giving a donation via our website, and then also by phone by texting the number 56512 and typing MOAD SF. We also value and appreciate your feedback. We want to know how to best serve our communities, so there's also a link to a very quick program survey. So if you can just take a few seconds to fill that out, that would be great. And with that, I would like to wish everyone else a wonderful rest of your evening, and you're welcome to unmute yourselves on the way out of the Zoom. Thank you.
Get home safe.
Great job, poets.
Oh
That
my
was
gosh, that was
fantastic.
so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And
I feel
Kim,
all
the
at home now.
newbie and everything. Oh my gosh.
Very good, Norm. It was a good.
Teju, that was so lovely. That was so lovely. Oh my gosh. My heart is still singing over here. Thank you so much.
Wonderful venue.
Bueno, entonces, 2 semanas, 2 weeks. See you. Peace.
Everyone was awesome. Thank
See
you.
you all in 2 weeks.
Nia is magic.
You.